Greetings, brothers and the sisters, and welcome to today, Sabbath, the 16th of November, 2024, where we are looking at our health study entitled Health Reform Part 1. Okay, with our presenter, Brother Keagan Banda. And so we hand it over to Brother Banda for the continuation of our study.
Okay, so we have the prayer thought. The prayer thought, we're going to begin with Exodus chapter 20, verse 13. Exodus chapter 20, verse 13. Someone to read Exodus chapter 20, verse 13.
Okay. Exodus chapter 20, verse 13, the Bible says, "Thou shalt not kill."
Okay. We understand there's a difference between killing and murder. I don't know the reason why God had to put that commandment to say thou shalt not kill. Other variants, they say thou shalt not murder. We know there's a difference between killing and murder. We know. Hello? All killing, whether by accident or by intention, is called killing. Murder is by what? Yes. Murder is intended. Okay, it's not, you can say, in law, they call it what? There's manslaughter and what? And murder. Say if you are protecting yourself from a person who wanted to kill you, then you end up killing that person, they would call it manslaughter. Okay, but the commandments is as straightforward, says thou shalt not kill. So that killing is all killing, whether murder or whether intentionally or not intentional. That's what God intended. Then Matthew 7 verse 12, it says, therefore all things whatsoever he would that men should do to you, do he even so to them, for this is the law and the prophets. This is also quoted by Victor Shohautif in the entering words. This is what we call the golden rule. The golden rule verse is the same one. It says, what you wish to happen to you, also you should wish them to happen to your neighbor. That which you do not wish to happen to you, you can't wish them to happen to your neighbor. It's the golden rule. Okay. So, CD, Ellen White commenting on thou shalt not kill, CD 373, paragraph 1. This is Ellen White commenting on thou shalt not kill. It says, God gave our first parents the food he designed that the race should eat. It was contrary to his plan to have the life of any creature taken. It was contrary to his plan to have the life of any creature taken. There was to be no death in Eden. There was to be no death in Eden. So we know death came. That's the reason God had to put in the Decalogue, the Ten Commandments, say, thou shalt not kill, because it was contrary to his plan to have any life taken. Okay. So that should be instilled into our mind, saying that God is not happy when he sees the life of any creature dies or dying or taken away. So with these three thoughts, we're going to pray. First, we have the golden rule quote. We have thou shalt not kill. So anything that we would not want them to happen to us, we should not wish to happen upon our neighbor. This is basically the golden rule. Okay, and this is the mind of God, because God wishes this to be so. Okay, I hope we've gotten it, you know. Yes. So we should pray. Our Father, which art in heaven, we thank you for the gift of life that you still grant to each one of us today. The Sabbath, you've given us life so that we might live according to your will. And you've given us the word of truth today, so that we might learn it and practice it. The health reform message, O Master Redeemer, it came from you. May you teach us that which you intend us to learn, because you've taught us the golden rule. That rule, O Jesus Christ of Nazareth, it is in this later 6 commandments that you want us, all of us, to live. Above all, you want us also to keep the 4 commandments, to respect you, to give homage to you. May you help us to keep the commandments that you gave us, because in judgment you shall use the Decalogue for us to be judged. In the name of Jesus, we do pray, thanksgiving in our hearts. Amen. So we're going to begin with where the history of the Seventh-day Adventists began. The Seventh-day Adventists began, before it began, we know there's a certain man called William Miller. Okay, William Miller, those people were called the First-day Adventists. The First-day Adventists. Then William Miller, the disappointment that he had in 1844, 22nd of October, then there was, we know that disappointment, unless we are not SDs. Those who are grounded to Seventh-day Adventist Church, they know the disappointment, because that's where the core foundation of the Seventh-day Adventist hangs, on the doctrine of William Miller of 1844. Then from there, the William Miller people, they were practicing what you call crusades. William Miller was from the the Baptist church, but he didn't really have a church per se, because he had the doctrine of the coming of Christ. That is the First-day Adventist. So they were campers. They were doing crusades and camping. Okay, that's the origin of camping of the Seventh-day Adventist Church today. The Seventh-day Adventist Church, they camp today. They have camps, but that camp, people think that it comes from Leviticus, but it's not so. It comes from the old practice of the first Adventists. They were that you can find the full story in 60, or you can just study it. You look at it when Ellen White was talking about the camp meeting. The chapter is the camp meeting. Exercise 60 is dedicated just to discuss the camp meeting, what should be done in the camp meeting. Then there are these people who began to join after the disappointment. Then God revealed the light to Edson that he was to go into the most holy place to begin the investigative judgment. And also God revealed that light to Ellen White, saying that God was to begin the investigative judgment in 1844, not coming to earth. So then they began to be strengthened according to Revelation chapter 10, verse 11. It says, you shall teach again, or you shall prophesy again the truth that was given to William Miller. So that message was supposed to continue with the Ellen White and the followers. So then they met with some people who was one of them. There was Wille, Rachel Oaks. That you can find it in the Encyclopedia of the Seventh-day Adventist. There was Rachel Oaks, Wille. These were coming from the Seventh-day Baptist Church. Seventh-day Baptist Church, they were worshiping on Sabbath. So Ellen White and James White received the truth of the Sabbath. Then they joined hands with Wille, Rachel Oaks, James White. There were 4. Okay. Then they started agitating the teaching of the Sabbath. They started writing articles on the Sabbath. But the thing is that they didn't know what time to begin the Sabbath. Then Joseph Beth joined them. When Joseph Beth read the article by Ellen White and James White, joined them. Then Joseph Beth decided to help to explain what time the Sabbath begins. But Joseph Beth was wrong because he used Matthew chapter 20 to begin the time of the Sabbath. He was teaching that Sabbath begins at 18 hours, according to Matthew chapter 20. Okay, until later on when Jane Andrews joined. Jane Andrews is the one that explained that the Sabbath begins at sunset. Sunset. Okay, so if you are to be asked a question saying who brought the truth of saying that the Sabbath begins at sunset, it is J.N. Andrews. He actually, when you read his books, he's dedicated to teach much of the Sabbath. Okay. Then there's a man, an interesting man that we have to connect. His name was S.N. Haskell, Stephen Nelson Haskell. He's an interesting man. When you read his story, you discover that he married at the age of 17. He married to a woman who was 38 years old, S.N. Haskell. So he's an interesting person. He did not go to school. The woman that he married to is the one that taught him on how to read, how to write. And is the one that has written many books. He's among the pioneers. You can check it out. He's written the Bible handbook, the health book. He's also written anatomy. Is it anatomy and physiology? Where you read from the skeletal up to all the systems. S.N. Haskell was written. Then S.N. Haskell is the one that, because he was very interested in studying the Bible, he brought the truth of what you call the clean and the unclean animals. The clean and the unclean animals, where he began to agitate, teach the people, saying that thou shalt not eat the unclean animals, or particularly thou shalt not eat swine or pork. It is S.N. Haskell. Okay. Swine or pork. So when you check, where do we see now the testimony? I hope now you are going to link it. Where do we see the testimony of, or where did Ellen White write comment on the teaching of S.N. Haskell? It is what Wapiri is going to read. This is 1T. Okay. Yes, 206 paragraph 3. So we see Ellen White's comment and James White, because these two, we know that the Seventh-day Adventist beacon is their James White and Ellen White. That's the Seventh-day Adventist beacon. Okay, yes. Says, I saw, you can read.
Testimonies for the Church, volume 1, page 206, paragraph 3, reads as follows. I saw that your views concerning swine's flesh, that is, in brackets, this remarkable testimony, was written October 21, 1858, nearly 5 years before the Great Vision of 1863, in which the light upon health reform was given. When the right time came, the subject was given in a manner to move all our people. How wonderful are the wisdom and goodness of God. It might be as wrong to crowd the milk, salt, and sugar question now as the Pope question in 1853, JW Notes to Second Edition. Then close bracket says, so let me continue, pick it up, says, I saw that your views concerning swine's flesh would prove no injury if you have them to yourselves. But in your judgment and opinion, you have made this question a test, and your actions have plainly shown your faith in this matter. If God requires his people to abstain from swine's flesh, he will convict them on the matter. He is just as willing to show his honest children their duty as to show their duty to individuals upon whom he has not laid the burden of his work. If it is the duty of the church to abstain from swine's flesh, God will discover it to more than 2 or 3. He will teach his church their duty.
Okay. So there we see the stance of Ellen White based on the truth that was brought by S.N. Haskell. Ellen White, he stood saying that if you kept that view to yourself, it was not to do any harm. But since you are agitating it, then it seems it is bringing harm. If God wants that truth to be learned, he's going to reveal it to more than 2 people, okay, or 3. That's what Ellen White said, okay. So from there we see the truth that S.N. Haskell was teaching. He was saying that we should not eat swine according to Leviticus 11 and Deuteronomy 14. Then a certain man called, it says, this man, what was his name? Ron Grelbill had to write a full article on the Seventh-day Adventist thinking pertaining to the clean and the unclean animals. It is written, is found in MR, you can write it, MR 852. Yeah, send.
That is my secretary.
Yes, but you have to abbreviate it in this way.
Okay, okay, let me search for it then.
Okay, this is Ron Grelbill.
Page 15.
852, yes.
Then,
yeah, that is 1 page.
Okay, I do.
Page 1, paragraph 2. Okay.
Let me just page. I'm sure these ones are the ones that I was saying that
you don't have them.
I have to go to.
You go to the blue one.
Blue one, yes.
Okay. So the Ron Grelbill began to discuss the Seventh-day Adventist thinking pertaining to the clean and the unclean animals. The reason why I'm beginning like this is because the Seventh-day Adventist Church have been teaching lies pertaining to the clean and the unclean animals. When I entered into the Seventh-day Adventist Church, they taught me saying that I should abstain from the unclean animals. That was not so according to the spirit of prophecy and their understanding. It was not so, and we're going to discover it today, because me, when I got baptized, when the truth of the health reform message came in 1863, but the Seventh-day Adventist Church have kept on teaching, even today, up to date, saying that the people should eat the clean animals, then they should not eat the unclean animals, which was never founded by any pioneers except S.N. Haskell. S.N. Haskell is the one that brought it, and he was rebuked by Ellen White according to that testimony that we have read. And also he was rebuked by Uriah Smith. Because Uriah Smith stands, according to this, when you read it, Uriah Smith, he said that if you want us to adopt Leviticus 11 and Deuteronomy 14, then we have to accept all the entire ceremonial law. That's what he said. Because, okay. You've taken it to the audio. Yeah, let me help you.
Oh, sorry. From here.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Okay, that will be manuscript releases 852, page 1, paragraph 2. It says, the prohibition on pork was the first to be established, but even that took time. Before the health message came to Ellen White in 1863, she and James White both discouraged believers who attempted to enforce a prohibition on pork. We do not, by any means, believe that the Bible teaches that it's that is in bracket pork, proper use in the gospel dispensation is sinful. Okay, James White wrote in 1850. Then we are further told to say in 1858, a brother in New England, doubtless, S.N. Haskell was again trying to discourage the use of pork and would make its use a test of loyalty to God's word. Mrs. White wrote him saying that if it is the duty of the church to abstain from swine's flesh, God would discover it to more than 2 or 3. End of quote.
Yeah. So we see here says the prohibition or the forbidding on pork was the first to be established. That is by S.N. Haskell. But even that took time, we know. Okay, before the health message came to Ellen White in 1863, she and James White both discouraged believers. We know when they discouraged believers. So James White also discouraged believers to abstain from pork, and Ellen White also did discourage believers to abstain from pork. Then according to this writing, a person would think saying that when the health message came, that's when the truth in the health message brought the truth of stopping to eat pork. But when you go to eat the truth of 1863, we're going to find out. So you can read some passage here where we see the other health, other pioneers, what was their stance? Okay. The health pioneers, what they were saying, they began first to discover, you can read here, where they started discussing, saying the criteria to use to stop eating those animals. They started saying to put the physicality of the animals. When they look at it, the physicality of the animals, saying we should not eat those that are divided. The wolf cheweth the cud. You seen, yeah.
Okay. This is the manuscript releases 852, page 1, and that will be paragraph 4. Okay, paragraph 4 reads as follows. D.M. Carnwright, in 1866 does allude to Deuteronomy 14 verse 8, which reads, "And the swine, because it divideth the hoof, yet cheweth not the cud, it is unclean unto you. Ye shall not eat of their flesh, nor touch their dead carcasses." But Cartwright makes no mention of other unclean meats and makes no use of the feather material in Deuteronomy 14 on the subject. When he does mention oysters in an article in the following year, he mentions their alleged powers to excite certain kinds of feelings and introduce no biblical argument.
Okay. So we see that the oysters, or the criteria they wanted to use, other animals, it was not tallying. The examples of the other animals is the oysters. And when you check it, you read here, you discover that even Ellen White, James White, in an article, yes, this one.
Okay. So we are still in manuscript releases 852, page 1, paragraph 6, which reads as follows. James White, in an 1872 article on swine's flesh, does show the beginnings of a wider application of Levitical law. He does mention Deuteronomy 14 verse 8 again, and he does seek to refute the argument that the prohibition on swine was merely a Jewish one, and therefore not binding on Christians. He reminds his readers that the distinction between clean and unclean was recognized in the Bible long before the existence of a single Jew. Still, the whole thrust of his argument is to discredit the pig, not to establish general categories of clean and unclean meats. He does not discuss the biblical criteria for the distinction at all.
Okay. So then again, Uriah Smith, he has to speak something here. Okay, here. This is just the same paragraph.
Okay, going over to paragraph 7, it says, "The general distinction between clean and unclean meats in Adventist circles remained undeveloped throughout the 19th century. While Adventists argued vigorously against pork, the weight of their argument continued to be carried by physiological criteria. Uriah Smith explicitly rejected the applicability of the Mosaic distinction. He wrote, "We believe there is better ground on which to rest, that is, in bracket, the prohibition on pork, than the ceremonial law of the former dispensation. For if we take the position that that law is still binding, we must accept it all, and then we shall have more on our hands than we can easily dispose of."
Okay. So even Uriah Smith stance say, okay, if we say that we should discard, we should follow the ceremonial law pertaining to the clean and the unclean animals, we should accept the entire ceremonial law. That is Uriah Smith's stance. Okay. Then when you look at, you go down, you discover now the struggle of Ellen White. Ellen White, even after this person brought that truth of the pork issue, she was struggling with what? You understand? She was still eating oysters, huh? She was still eating oysters. You know, oysters are unclean animals. Ellen White. Okay. Yes. Let me show you. Here, you can just read this paragraph, then you continue. You show.
Okay. Now we are on page 2. We are reading the book manuscript 852, page 2, paragraph 2, which says, for Adventists in the 19th century, then all meat eating was discouraged, while the eating of pork was virtually banned. Other meats which we would consider unclean were not seen, apparently in the same light as pork. Going over to paragraph 3, it says, once when Ellen White was ill, her son, W.C. White, reports that she was encouraged to drink a little oyster broth to settle her stomach. She is said to have tried a spoonful or two, but then refused the rest. There is, however, evidence that at one point in her life, Mrs. White most likely ate some oysters. In 1882, when she was living at Healdsburg, California, she wrote a letter to her daughter-in-law, Mary Kelsley White, in Oakland, in which she made the following request. Mary, if you can get me a good box of herrings, fresh ones, please do so. These last ones that we got are bitter and odd. If you can buy cans, say half a dozen cans of good tomatoes, please do so. We shall need them. If you can get a few cans of good oysters, get them. Continuing on in paragraph 4, it says, Ellen White kept it no secret that under difficult circumstances, as when she traveled or when she was entertained in her travels, she ate some meat. The book, Counsels on Diet and Foods, published in 1938, carries some account of her relation to the use of meat after the health reform vision was given to her as follows. I at once cut meat out of my bill of fare. After that, I was at times placed where I was compelled to eat a little meat. This is in harmony with her earlier published statement, which appeared in 1890 in the book Christian Temperance and Bible Hygiene, reading, when I could not obtain the food I needed, I have sometimes eaten a little meat, but I'm becoming more and more afraid of it. But going over into paragraph 5, it says, but beyond this, there is evidence of some laxness in the 1870s and 1880s, which allowed a little meat to appear on her table when it may not have been essential. Given the difficulties of refrigerating and transporting food in the 19th century, it was a much greater problem then to gain an adequate diet without using fresh foods. In the early 1890s, Mrs. White expressed her distaste for meat while en route to Australia. She wrote, they have an abundance of food in the meat line, prepared in different ways. But as I do not enjoy a meat diet, it leaves me rather meager fare. While in Australia, that is paragraph 6, while in Australia, in early 1894, Ellen White took her stand to eat no more meat, a position from which there was no retreat through the rest of her life. She writes to it thus, says, since the camp meeting at Brighton, January 1894, I have absolutely banished meat from my table. It is an understanding that whether I am at home or abroad, nothing of this kind is to be used in my family or come upon my table. I have had much representations before my mind in the night season on this subject.
So we see the history. Even when S.N. Haskell brought the issue of the clean and the unclean animals, and the Seventh-day Adventist pioneers, they began to argue on the subject. The Ellen White stance pertaining to it was made, as we read, saying that God is going to reveal it to two or more people if he wants us to follow the issue of to abstain from pork. Then we see later on she had to receive a vision. The vision she received at Otsego, Michigan, 1863, June 6. God gave her the light pertaining to the health reforms. That's the reason our title is called Health Reform. She received at Otsego, Michigan, June 6, 1863. She received the truth. So let us read that truth that she received, Ellen White. Okay. So the truth she at Otsego, Michigan. Where is it? First, before we read it, we read this quote, CD 493, paragraph 4. It says, I have had great light from the Lord upon the subject of health reform. CD 493, paragraph 4. I have had great light from the Lord upon the subject of health reform. I did not.
Baby boy. Baby boy. Baby boy.
Okay. It says, I've had great light. I've also made myself. Okay. Hello, are you able to get me? Huh?
Yes.
This is not muted. Huh?
No, it's not. You can see.
So Ellen White, she says, saying that the light that she wrote, it says she did not seek this light. She was given by the Lord, according to CD 493. It says, I have had great light from the Lord upon the subject of health reform. I did not seek this light. I did not study to obtain it. It was given to me by the Lord to give to others. So this subject she did not study. She did not seek it. She was given by the Lord. Okay. So the Otsego, Michigan vision that she had is the one that I'm about to read to you. Let me just show you. Why is it on this one? Okay, the light on health reform. You can check it on your article, on your thing. Don't know if I have it here.
Because this one is the one that I have.
No, I'm saying on your phone.
Oh.
Okay, I have it. So here she writes in CD 481, paragraph 5, says, it was at the house of Brother A. Hilliard.
Oh, you are too fast for those that are writing the quotes. You will repeat the quotes at least
twice. CD 481, paragraph 5. Ellen White, the light that she received in June 6, 1863. It's the one I was trying to recite of the light of vision on health reform. She records, it says, it was at the house of Brother A. Hilliard at Otsego, Michigan, June 6, 1863, that the great subject of health reform was opened before me in vision. Okay, so we see Ellen White received this vision. The vision, when you read it, God was telling Ellen White to discard all flesh, whether clean or unclean. According to even the article that we read by Ron Grabbill, saying that all flesh meat was to be banished, okay, according to the light received by Ellen White. So, contrary to the light received or studied by S.N. Haskell. S.N. Haskell brought the truth of the unclean animals, which was what do you call, rebuked by Ellen White and James White, then God gave Ellen White the truth on health reform, saying that whether clean or unclean animals thou shalt not eat. So now the question comes, where do the Seventh-day Adventist Church get the idea that they should eat the clean animals and did not eat the unclean animals? Because the light received by Ellen White in 1863, June 6, was that thou shalt not eat meat, whether clean or unclean, thou shalt not eat. Okay. So we see even the struggle, because I've received pastors preach even to the audience saying that there are people who teach people saying thou shalt not eat meat. Then they quote Ellen White life pertaining to the issue of meat. Ellen White's life, yes, it was a struggle, but she writes saying her life should not be a criterion. Even when she received the health reform message in 1863, June 6, she was struggling to eat even the unclean animals. She was eating oysters and some meat, according to the testament. She stopped eating meat in 1894. She received the light on health reform to stop eating meat in 1863. But the time she stopped eating meat, it was in what? In 1894.
30 years.
Okay.
1 year later.
So she was struggling. Ellen White was genuinely struggling to stop eating meat. Then she eventually stopped. She writes in her testament. So the Seventh-day Adventist pastors, they begin to quote the struggling of Ellen White to comfort themselves to continue eating meat. Okay. And to encourage their laity or congregants to continue eating meat. But the Ellen White's life should not be a criterion. She struggled, but the light given to her in 1863 was to stop eating meat, whether clean or unclean animals, and not to follow the light brought by S.N. Haskell. Okay. So the eating of the clean animals is not according to the pioneers' work in the Seventh-day Adventist. Because when you read the life of S.N. Haskell, the time he wrote that, he was a hater of the spirit of prophecy until he had to change. S.N. Haskell, Stephen Nelson Haskell, he was the hater of the spirit of prophecy, while those people were opposing the spirit of prophecy during that time until he had to change. Okay. So you have to understand that the eating of the clean animals is not according to the pioneers' work, but it is according to the Seventh-day Adventist policy propaganda, which they want to win, or it's the work of the mystery of iniquity to win more members in the Seventh-day Adventist Church by not putting laws to prohibit them to abstain from meat. So if you don't tell people saying you can eat meat, if you tell people you can eat meat and just come the way you are, then there'll be more in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I think that is the reason why they don't teach the truth revealed by their founder. Okay, I hope that is clear. That is what I wanted to set on. So Ellen White, she's taught us saying that she did not receive this light. Sorry, she did not study this light. She did not seek this light, but she was given by the Lord to give to others. CD 117 says, man came from the hand of his creator, perfect in organization and beautiful in form. CD 117, saying that man came from the hand of the creator, beautiful in organism, or perfect in organization and beautiful in form. Okay. And that bears witness in Genesis chapter 1, verse 31, saying, God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. That is superlative. It was very good. And the evening and the morning was the 60th day. That's the day when man was created, on the 60th day. When God created man, man was very good. Then with our first parents, intemperate desire resulted in the loss of Eden. So we see that it was because of intemperance, the reason to why Adam and Eve lost what? Eden. Victor Tashoautif expounded on this. It says, it was beyond intemperance, because the question by the serpent was that if you want to be as gods, thou shalt eat this, shalt taste of this fruit. So the question was based on that the woman was tempted on her wanting to be as gods, okay, to have vivifying power. So it was the appetite, but beyond appetite. The question was based on if you want to be as gods. Okay, so the issue to become as God, that was the root of the sin, then followed the issue of intemperance. So if you want to fight this, first, we should not make ourselves to be as gods, or attempting to become as gods, or pompousness, self-aggrandizement, or self-egotism, or to become as God, the sin of Lucifer, wanted to be above God, or self-trust. Okay, that was the sin. But according to here, we see temperance in all things has more to do with our restoration to Eden than many realize. This is Ministry of Healing 129, paragraph 2. So if we want to fight the issue of temperance, you have to fight the issue of selfishness. Okay, then you become temperate. So we have to begin to fight first ourselves. Number two, then now we become temperate. Then the restoration to us to go back to Eden will be realized. If we don't fight against ourselves becoming to have the ego, to become bossy or leaders, or we want to be as gods, then there will be no way to be restored back to Eden. We're back to Eden. In CD 380 paragraph 1, CD 380 paragraph 1 says, again and again, I've been shown that God is trying to lead us back step by step to his original design. That men should subsist upon the natural products of the earth. Okay. We know the natural products of the earth is, according to council, the natural products of the earth, it is CD, that is CD 380 paragraph 2. The natural products of the earth is, let me show you. Okay. Natural products of the earth is saying vegetables, fruits, and grains should compose our diet. 380. CD 380 paragraph 2. It says vegetables, fruits, and grains should compose our diet. Not an ounce of flesh meat should enter our stomachs. The eating of flesh is unnatural. The eating of flesh is unnatural. we are to return to God's original purpose in the creation of man. Okay, so we know the original purpose in the creation of man, according to this quote. Those who argue, who are critiqued, they will say no, there was no vegetables. But we are going to discover that in the creation of man, the original design, yes, there was no vegetable. But while we are still here, before the earth is made new, God is telling us to eat, subsist also on vegetables, grains, fruits, and what? And nuts, while we are still here on earth. From the time when God gave the light on earth before, is to subsist on vegetables, grains, fruits, and nuts. Others, they can argue. I don't know if you are able to explain Genesis. Let me help you. Genesis chapter 1, verse, let us go to the Bible. We see Genesis. Okay. We see Genesis chapter, Genesis chapter, okay. When God created this is Genesis chapter 1, verse 11. It says, and God said, let the earth bring forth grass. Genesis chapter 1, verse 11. And God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit, after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth, and it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, and the herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind, and God saw that it was good. So we see when God decided to create what? The grass. And the what? And the herb yielding seed, and the tree yielding fruit. We see when God. Then in Genesis chapter 1, verse 29, God decides now to give the tree yielding fruit and the herb yielding seed. He decided to give it to man. Genesis chapter 1, verse 29 says, and God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat. So man was given a what? A tree yielding fruit and its seed, and a herb yielding fruit. Yielding seed. So look at it. So a tree yielding fruit, we know is the fruit, actual fruit. Then its seed is the nuts. Okay, because nuts, there are people who do not know. They call groundnuts as nuts. Groundnuts are not nuts. They're in the category of legumes. Okay, they are never nuts. They're in the category of beans. So the nuts, they grow from a tree. They are the seeds of what? Of the tree. Okay. So all the nuts, the category, cashew nuts, macadamia, hazelnuts, almonds, all of them, they grow from a tree. That is the food which we find in Genesis chapter 1, verse 29. It's the nuts, the fruits, and the what? The grains. The grains is a herb yielding seed. This is the food that God gave to man in the beginning. Then Genesis chapter 1, verse 30, the grass was given to the beasts. It says, and to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat, and it was so. Okay, so we see. Then later on, when man sinned, that's when God decided to put also the green. Okay, the green in his dirt. The green or the every green herb or the grass in his dirt. Okay, that's where we find the history of this. Okay, I hope there are questions based on that one. So according to the light, God was trying to lead the Seventh-day Adventist church to Eden. Step by step, he was trying to make them understand the issue of them going back to Eden. PP, this is PP. PP, that is Patriarchs and Prophets, page 91, paragraph 3. It says, they delighted in destroying the life of animals, and the use of flesh for food rendered them still more cruel and bloodthirsty, until they came to regard human life with astonishing indifference. Astonishing indifference. So we see that the children of Israel, most of people, they think as if the children of Israel, they stopped eating meat after the flood, after the antediluvian. But that is not so. They stopped eating meat. The children of Israel, the children of Israel began to eat meat before the before the flood, in the time of what? We call it the antediluvian time, huh? Before the flood. Oh, sorry, the people. Yeah. I know. Yeah. The sons of God. The people from the people of Adam going down up to the flood, these people, they began consuming meat before the forbidding, the prohibition of eating meat. Understand? This is what this quote is saying. They began to eat meat, consume meat before God prohibited them to eat meat.
Or maybe put it in another way. When God created them, he told them what to eat.
Yes, correct.
And so they added meat before God allowed them after the flood. So meaning they started consuming meat when they were not allowed to do so.
Correct.
Okay? Such that when the flood came and there was no green vegetables, that's when God allowed them. Then after being allowed, there came a time of prohibition again. So maybe we categorize those areas.
Yes.
First, God told them what to eat. Every green-bearing food plant in which there is seed, that was going to be meat for man. But even before the earth was destroyed by the flood, men went beyond the boundary of the foods that God had allowed them, and they started consuming meats. Okay? Yeah, before the flood. Thank you.
Okay, so you see now, so they began to consume meat. This is PP 91, paragraph 3. It says they delighted in destroying the life of animals, and the use of flesh for food rendered them still more cruel and bloodthirsty until they came to regard human life with astonishing indifference. Okay. So that's what we see there. So from there, those guys, the people, I don't know what they are called. They are called antediluvian people. Eh? Mm-hmm. Yes, the antediluvian people, they started consuming meat, eating meat. Okay. So let us look at it in the what? I know, I think it's there on that in this article. Let me just follow it. I wanted to show you. Then the second step we see is that in Exodus 16, 3-4, the children of Israel, now these are the children of Israel. That time I made a mistake. Those were the Antediluvians. These are the children of Israel. The children of Israel, God, when he decided to emancipate them from Egypt, to take them to the promised land, also he withheld greatly flesh from them. Okay. Exodus 16, 3-4, it says, and the children of Israel said unto them, would to God we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots, and when we did eat bread to the full, for he have brought us forth into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. So they consider eating manna was what? Yes. Then said the Lord unto Moses, behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day, that I may prove them whether they will walk in my law or not. And when the God of Israel brought his people out, this is CD 148, it says, when the God of Israel brought his people out of Egypt, he withheld flesh meats from them in a great measure. 148. CD 148. It says, when the God of Israel brought his people out of Egypt, he withheld flesh meats from them in a great measure, but gave them bread from heaven and water from the flinty rock. That's what he did. And we know this description of the manna that he gave them, the bread from heaven, it was like coriander. We're going to look at it. With this, they were not satisfied. They loathed, when you look at it in the dictionary, to loathe at something is to hate it with passion. Yes, with passion, with gnashing of your teeth. Aye, you loathe. You look at it, there's also a vomiting involved. You feel nausea when you look at it, when you hate something. So they were feeling nauseous when they were given manna. Actually, manna is an insult, you know that. When they were given bread, because it's them who brought the idea of manna. Because when they went, they were told by Moses, go and pick bread from heaven. Then they saw, saying, what is this? What manner of this is this? Okay, manna, I say, what is this? What has God given us? They were surprised. What is this? But spiritual prophecy description says that manna, they could make anything out of manna. They could make bread. They could make anything using the same manna. But they loathed at it. They hated it given them. And they wished themselves back in Egypt, where they could sit by the flesh pots. They preferred to endure slavery and even death rather than to be deprived of flesh. They preferred death. They preferred death to eating manna. Even today, there are people, when you tell them, like in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, if the Seventh-day Adventist ministry were to be telling people, saying, all of you should stop eating meat, they would prefer staying, not joining the Seventh-day Adventist Church. To stop eating meat. Most of people, or even amongst us, would prefer not to stop. We just say, okay, we have stopped. But people who you're like, you're staying with them, yet home they're eating meat. They're still eating flesh, but they're pretending, because the shepherd's rod, the way it is truth. You can't refuse it. It is truth. Even when you refuse it, it will be lingering in your mind. So people will just say, okay, I'll just pretend as if I'm doing, but I'm not doing. So home, they eat meat. Here, they pretend not to eat meat. Who had people like that, Home, they eat fish carpenter. Yeah. Akudia somba carpenter, nkuko. wakudya kuno wakabwera yaya wapasa nsomba aipaga fuludi a vegetarian pretense. So that's what also these people, at least they were they were not in the Laodicean condition. Laodicean condition is hypocrisy, it's pretense. These ones says, we were even better off, Huja, Egypt, to endure slavery and even death than to be deprived of flesh. Then what? They now went to Moses saying, Moses, we want flesh. Then Moses, since God granted them their desire. God granted them their desire, giving them flesh and leaving them to eat till their gluttony produced a plague, from which many of them died. We know what happened. The plague that God said that they will come like from your nostrils. Aye. The quails that God gave them, He gave them a lot. He rained quails for them. They ate, they ate the same quails. They were to die by the same quails. It was a plague that it produced. Counsels for the Church 228, paragraph 3. It says, in choosing man's food in Eden, the Lord showed what was the best diet in the choice made for Israel. In choosing man's food in Eden, the Lord showed what was the best diet. Today, they say no. They say in vegetable or in grain, fruits, nuts, and vegetables does not consist all the elements. Even today, the believers are still saying that in grains, nuts, and vegetables and fruits does not consist all the elements required by the living organism. By so doing, you are saying that God did not give the people in Eden the best diet. Okay, that's what you're saying. Whether you like it or not, that's what you're saying. In the choice made for Israel, He taught the same lesson. Because God, it was not His desire to make the human beings to start eating flesh. The best diet, according to Him, is the plant-based diet. Even when He decided to embark them to the promised land, He gave them the same diet, okay, to the children of Israel. He brought the children of Israel, the Israelites, out of Egypt and undertook their training, that they might be a people for His own possession. Through them, He desired to bless and teach the world. He provided them with the food best adapted for this purpose, not flesh, but manna, the bread of heaven. It was only because of their discontent, their murmuring for the flesh pots of Egypt, that animal food was granted them. Animal food was granted them. And this only for a what? How long? For a short time. For a short time. Its use brought disease and death to thousands. Yet the restriction to a non-flesh diet was never heartily accepted. It continued to be the cause of discontent and murmuring, open or secret. It was not made permanent.
So I think from this reading now, there is a lot of things that are coming in. Like for instance, we see that whereas today meat eating is slowly causing disease and sickness amongst people, God at the time of the children of Israel wanted to show it to them outright by raining quail to say, by eating this, this will be the result. It plagues you. So we see that man is not learning a lesson from God to say, the reason why meat is not supposed to be part and parcel of our food, it is unnatural for us. Okay? And so it brings diseases. And so this is a wonderful lesson that we are learning, that our friends had to learn the hard way in a short time. But for us, we are learning it the hard way. Maybe not, actually, it's not even a long time, because it's just a few days, months in our life that the effects of these meat eatings, we start seeing them. Like the multiplicity of disease today. The doctors, they fail to just tell people outright, say, do you know what the cause of all this disease is? Meat eating. But what do they tell their patients? Oh, stop eating this for now. Like when they go to these drinks like colas, teas, coffees, they'll just be like trying to be sounding nice to the patient and lovely. Say, no, for now, until you get well, stop eating this. Instead of them outrightly saying the truth, say these things are harmful or injurious to your body. We are trying to be, like you said about us SDA, saying if we told ourselves, say this we should stop, maybe the whole church would go home. Okay, so now to just keep us moving or going, we are deceived a bit. So that is the lesson that I get from there. But I wanted to understand more. If I heard you correctly, you are saying that manna is termed the bread of heaven by God, and then man is the one that called it manna by. I want more understanding of that one. I didn't get clearly what you said, or the origin of the word manna.
Okay. So I didn't put it in this article where it says manna, because when they came there, they started calling it manna. I don't know, those in the audience, I can help you on that one. Let me show you. Okay. I have the quotations on manna anyway. There where it says the bread from heaven. I'm going to read it. So your question is based on their doubt on when those who called it manna.
Yeah, because it just said that God called it bread from heaven, but because people were asking, say, what is this? So you said manna means what is this? So that's what I want to understand more on.
What is this? Okay. Wanted to go now to the short time. And prepare on this one to show you manner. Okay. Exodus 16, verse 15. Okay, then you read that one. That's why you see the same manner. Then
okay. Exodus
16, verse 15.
Okay, verse 15. The Bible reads as follows. It says, and when the children of Israel saw it, they said one to another, it is manna, for they wist not what it was.
And Moses said what?
And Moses said unto them, this is the bread which the Lord hath given you to eat. Okay.
Okay, simplified version, it will tell you, they started asking themselves, what is this? Huh? Okay, because they didn't know what it was. Okay, then Moses is the one who told them, saying, it is what? It is the bread from heaven. Then 31 says, and the house of Israel called the name thereof manna. 31. Verse 31 of the same.
Exodus 16, verse 1.
When you check it,
And the house of Israel called the name thereof manna, and it was like coriander seed, white, and the taste of it was like wafers made with honey.
okay. So you see, even the description, it was like coriander. They didn't know what it was. It looked like coriander seed, white, and the taste of it, it was like wafers made with honey. They didn't know what it was. Moses is the one who told them what it was. It was the bread from what? From heaven. Then when you look at it here, let me show you the manna, pot of manna. You look at it in Psalms, it tells you saying it is heavenly what? It's a, do I have it here? Manna, what was it? Manna looked like coriander. Okay, even Hebrews, pot of manna. This is in the most holy place. But in Psalms, where you look at manna, let me show you in Psalms. Okay, Psalms 78, verse 24. David also tells you when he was writing this account, he says, and he rained down manna. Psalm 78, verse 24, and he rained down manna upon them to eat, and had given them of the corn of heaven. Man did eat angels' food. That is verse 20 what?
25.
Okay, it was angels' food. Man did eat angels' food. He sent them meat to the food.
78, 24, and 25. 78, 24, and 25.
Okay. So manna is the people that think as if angels they don't eat, they eat. Okay. That's why you learn. You learn that angels, the food that they were given them, it was the angels' food, bread from heaven. But the people they decided to look at it, to call it manna. They didn't know what it was. Anyway.
So
does that answer your question?
Yes, no, actually, Exodus 16 answered the question because that's what I just wanted to get. So the reason why, maybe when I was just Googling the word manna, I found that God sent manna, God sent manna. So I was like, okay, even God is calling it manna, yeah, how did the name come? So, yeah, I don't know whether by virtue of God just telling them, what is this? Then it means the understanding was given them already that it is manna, which means something that they did not understand. And now looking at where we have gone to Psalm number 78, it even adds more substance to what I wanted to understand, because it is telling us that why it was so strange to the children of Israel, it is angels' food. It was something that like, okay, for instance, that what I'm not understanding deeply is this, that God had a way of bringing us through Israel closer to Him by both food and everything else. But we failed to appreciate the closeness that God wanted us to develop with Him. And so we chose to go away from Him and even the food that He was giving us. Remember that even Ellen White at some point mentioned this. She said that if the kind of life we are leading, some of us, if we are taken to heaven, we will say, heaven is bad. We even roast the same words, we will roast the table in heaven. So we see that our appetite is so perverted that we will hate that which is good and love that which is evil. Yeah, that is what I've got. Thank you so much for those.
Okay. So the children of Israel, that time they were given a short time. The antitypical children of Israel also, remember that from the children of Israel in the promised land, up to the time they had kings, up to the time the Seventh-day Adventist Church was born, we see that the last time they are still eating meat. Okay, until the truth began to be raised. Okay, the children of Israel, the archetypical children of Israel, they needed also to stop eating meat. To stop eating meat. Okay. This one we read it from Matthew chapter 22, verse 11 up to 12, where we see God giving a parable of saying that when the king came in to see the guests, he saw there a man which had not on a wedding garment. And he said unto him, Friend, how comest thou in hither, not having a wedding garment? And he was speechless. You know this invitation. At first, the invitation was to the people that the king knew. Huh? Do you remember the story? This invitation is to the people that he knew, but those were busy. They gave excuses. Then the invitation was extended. Okay, this extension is to all of them, all the people. Okay, whether maimed or what, whether poor or rich, all of them. Then now, when the day came for them to appear, there were people, or there was a man who had no wedding garment. Okay. Then he said unto him, Friend, how camest thou in hither, not having a wedding garment? And he was speechless. Then COL has this in comment. COL has this in comment. This is Christ object lesson. He tells you saying that this is COL, page 310, paragraph 1. It says, by the king's examination of the guests at the feast is represented a work of judgment. This is the work of judgment. So we know that judgment that began in 1844, 22 of October, the investigative judgment began, is when we see that Christ, according to early writings 55, he was born or carried by a vehicle, a chariot, into the most holy place, then to begin the investigative judgment. That's what happened. So according to there, when the light received the light of 1844, meaning that the Seventh-day Adventist Church were to stop eating meat. They were to stop. But it took time, we know, it took time for them to receive that truth. We gave that history, okay? We gave that history that it took time for them to stop. Ellen White received the truth, even the truth of the Sabbath, you know, she received this later. Like, between if I was to ask, between the health reform message and the Sabbath truth, which one was received first? Between the health reform message and the Sabbath truth, which one was received first? Okay, it's a Sabbath truth. So it was in stages. You know, they began to receive the Sabbath truth. Then later on, they had to receive the health reform message in 1863. So the short time now had to stop. In 1863, all of them in the Seventh-day Adventists were to stop eating meat, whether clean or unclean, they were to stop. Okay, why? Because the judgment had already commenced in 1844. God began to do the work of investigative judgment in the heavenly sanctuary in 1844. So they were to do that, they were to stop eating meat in when the light was given them in 1863. Why? Because Councils for the Church, 353 paragraph 4 says, these are they which follow the Lamb whatsoever he goeth. And we know this is quoted from where? From Revelation. And this as in reference to the 144,000. So the 144,000 and those with them they have to follow Christ whatsoever he goeth. That means in truth, okay, and in behavior, and in attitude. They are to follow Christ whatsoever he goeth. This I've already cited. Okay, this is early writings 55, paragraph 1. I've already cited it. So the reason others, I think we've heard of people talk of the sanctuary. The sanctuary is saying that because Christ entered into the sanctuary, so we are in the courtyard. I think you've heard of that, where people say courtyard period, people we can eat meat. They're just making references, and I mean, what do they call that? Representations of the courtyard. Courtyard phase, okay, they were eating, because in the courtyard phase, they used to kill animals in the courtyard phase. So people were eating meat. Or the courtyard phase of Christ was Christ when he came here on earth, then people were still eating meat. Then, but when he went up yonder in the holy place, doing it from the throne of God with the lamb, he had to, in that phase, we know we are still eating meat, okay, because in the holy place, the eating meat was still there. Then in the most holy place, that's where we see there's no eating meat. When God, Christ in 1844 decided to enter into the most holy place, in the most holy place, emblems in the most holy place, there are these emblems. There's the Ark of the Covenant. And we know during the investigative judgment at the day of Yom Kippur atonement, which was happening yearly, the curtain was raised. We know that. Huh? Hello?
Yeah, the curtain which was separating the holy from the most holy.
It was raised. So that temple was one. It was one temple. So in there we see there was the ark. The ark was representing the presence of God in the pot of manna. In Hebrews 9 verse 4. Okay, represents, this is CD 269. It represents plant-based foods. The pot of manna, plant-based foods. We know the pot of manna bared what? Actually, when you read it in a what is that book? Early writings, we see that the table, the fruits that we're going to eat, they're going to come from where? From the pot of manna. I mean, from the rod of Aaron. Yes, which body? Yeah.
So yeah, I was confused when I think the okay. So the road, yeah.
The road which body? So we see here, there's the pot of manna, there's the rod of Aaron. Then in the rod of Aaron, we know what, but they were like almonds. Huh? Remember, almonds. And almonds are in the category of what? Nuts, almonds. Then there was also the pomegranate. You know, huh? Pomegranate was from where? How do we trace a pomegranate? It was from the high priest. The high priest was at the bell and the pomegranate here. Remember? On the helm of his garment. And the fruits we know. And the manna look like coriander. So we can assume that it was in the category of grains. So all these articles that we find in the holy place, if we are told the people are to bring a debate, you can outrightly tell them, saying that in the most holy place, the articles that we find there is a Vestigian dirt. That's where Christ is. Okay. That is because I've heard many people discuss saying because we are in the most holy place, we have to eat plant-based diet, and that is so. We have to eat plant-based diet. Okay. The manna was like coriander seed, and the color like psyllium, and the people went about and gathered it and ground it in the mills or beat with a mortar and baked it in pans and made cakes of it. That's how they were doing. Okay, manna. So now the question will come saying, why are we still eating vegetables? Yet the food given us, according to Genesis chapter 1, verse 29, is there's no vegetable inclusive there. Why are we still eating vegetable? Yes, where? Where?
Because you remember when you read to us Genesis chapter 1, when it was saying have bearing.
I see, yes.
So I deliberately went to check the dictionary for the word have as used in Genesis. There it just says all plants that have seeds, vegetables included. So I don't know, that verse is inclusive of vegetables according to it. So I don't know.
Okay, then now the question will come. Because when I went there in Genesis, I deliberately began with verse 11. In verse 11, there were three different things. Okay. There's what do you call a tree yielding seed, there's a herb-bearing seed, and there was a green herb. Remember?
Green herb or grass? Okay.
Oh, it's a grass according to, but when you look at it in what it is in 30, just check it in 30, in verse 30. Because in Genesis 1, it tells you what that grass is. And in verse 30.
Verse 30, and to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat, and it was so.
Okay. So there's no seed attached to that one. Yes. So now the question would come saying then, what is the difference between the verse 29 and verse 30 of this?
Yeah, verse 29 says, and God said, behold, I've given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. And then 30, saying, and to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat. And it was so. So for the animals, the herb is not bearing seed. For man, it is the herb that is bearing seed, yes, and the plant that is bearing seed.
Yes, that is the distinction. And I did not put this one. We can have our own time to look at it because it's there in council where it says, also other quotes where Ellen White tells you saying that the man given food before the what? Before sin was not grains and fruit. Then later on, he had to put vegetables. That's the reason in other quotes where you discover that just check fruit nuts and grains. You discover it says God intends us to eat fruits, nuts, and grains. Then later on, we discover Ellen White now she has to put vegetables, grains, fruits, nuts. Okay. I didn't put it here in the, but we have to look at that later. Okay. Because that one is well classified in council. Or you want us to look at it now?
I'm trying to.
Okay. So the question comes is, what do angels wear and eat? Here it says COL 311 paragraph 2. It says, but this they can never do. COL 311 paragraph 2 says, but this they can never do, nothing can man devise to supply the place of this lost robe of innocence. No fig leaf garment, no worldly citizen's dress can be worn by those who sit down with Christ and angels at the marriage supper of the Lamb. Okay. You've gotten this? And now have you gotten this one? No fig leaf garment, no worldly citizen dress can be worn by those who sit down with Christ and angels at the marriage supper of the Lamb. The sinless pair, that is PP 445 paragraph 3, says the sinless pair wore no artificial garments also. They were clothed with a covering of light and glory, such as the angels wear. Hi. So the angels, they were not wearing what? They were covered with light. They are covered with light. The angelic beasts, angelic beings, they are covered with light, just like the way Adam and Eve were covered with light. Do angels eat flesh? According to Psalms, we see that angels, they eat. Man did eat angels' food. He sent them meat to the full. So angels, they eat what they were eating. The children of Israel, they were eating manna. And other evidence that we can find, do the other world keep? Okay, do the other world keep, or do they keep the commandments? Ellen White has this in testimony. This is early writings, page 39, paragraph 3. You know that Earth was given probationary time, but alas, Earth sinned. But other worlds, they did not sin. Other worlds, they did not sin. They passed their probationary time. Okay. And also they have the commandments there. Ellen White, she has this in writing. She says, the Lord had given me a view of other worlds, wings were given me, and an angel attended me from the city to a place that was bright and glorious. The grass of the place was living green, and the birds there warbled a sweet song. The inhabitants of the place were of all sizes. They were noble, majestic, lovely. They bore the express image of Jesus, and their countenances beamed with holy joy, expressive of the freedom and happiness of the place. I asked one of them why they were so much more lovely than those on the earth. Their reply was, we have lived in strict obedience to what? To God's commandments. So look at the reason to why they are so happy, in other words, which Ellen White saw, is because these people were living in strict obedience to God's commandments and have not fallen by disobedience like those on the earth. Then I saw two trees. One looked much like the tree of life in the city. The fruit of both looked beautiful, but of one they could not eat. They had power to eat of both, but were forbidden to eat of one. So even them, they had what? They had probationary time. They had forbidden fruit, but they did not what? Touch the forbidden fruit. Then my attending angel said to me, none in this place have tasted of the forbidden tree, but if they should eat, they would fall. Okay, so the reason why us we are miserable like this, the way we are, and we die is because we disobeyed. This is an example that there are people who were given the same, test, and they did not disobey, and they are still happy up to now. They were given a chance to save themselves by their own righteousness, but and they did not. They saved themselves by their own righteousness, by not us. We are saved by the righteousness of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that is me. I'm still.
Hello?
I'm still with the Genesis chapter 1, verses 25.
Okay.
Yeah, there's something that I want to get clear.
Okay.
Yeah, when God is telling us, because we want to understand if at all there are vegetables included in verse 29 that we are given. Because there it is saying, I have given you every herb bearing seed. Every herb bearing seed. Okay? So I want to understand which herb is it that bears seed. Because I want to connect it with where you took us to, where we took say we were told grains, nuts, and yes, fruit, grains, and nuts. Okay, so showing that maybe there is a variation somewhere. So I just want to understand where God is saying that every herb bearing seed. Do we just take it that from that herb we just eat seeds, or we are given the greens that have seed in them, and also the tree that has also seed in it? Because it seems, because when I look at it, it's like the difference between verses 29 and 30 is that there are herbs that are bearing seed, and there are herbs that are not bearing seed. That's the difference that I'm seeing there. So to man, the command was that he was given every herb bearing seed. So I want to understand when you are saying herb bearing seed, what is that?
Okay. It's taken me back. I don't know who've taken time to study this one. I wanted to look for the references now.
That are talking about the grains, nuts, and vegetables.
The one that talks about the same quotes, the ones that are commenting on the quote on Genesis. Okay.
That's where I am actually. Okay, CD, that is called chapter 4, the proper dietary. Then says part 1, the original diet. It says chosen by the Creator. Okay. It says, in order to know what are the best foods, we must study God's original plan for man's diet. He who created man and who understands his needs appointed Adam his food. Behold, he said, I have given you every herb yielding seed, and every tree in which is the fruit of the tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for food. Upon leaving Eden to gain his livelihood by tilling the earth under the curse of sin, man received to eat also the herb of the field.
Okay.
Yes, and then we're told to say, grains, fruits, nuts, and vegetables constitute the diet chosen for us by our Creator. These foods, prepared in as simple and natural a manner as possible, are the most healthful and nourishing. They impart a strength, a power of endurance, and a vigor of intellect that are not afforded by a more complex and stimulating diet.
Okay.
End of paragraph 2.
So that one is partial. I have to look there.
Okay.
We can I think we can have time to look at that one, because hello.
That cancels on that and food page 81, paragraph 1 and 2.
Okay. Bernard, you can comment on the quote that you've given. So the only part that is there, it's also in that quote.
The part it's saying, upon leaving Eden to gain his livelihood by tilling the earth under the curse of sin, man received permission to eat also the herb of the field.
Yes.
Okay? The herb of the field. Yes.
So that one, it doesn't classify, but though it say.
Because that's why if you understand what you are saying,
saying that
because we are looking at the difference between the herb that was given to man and that which was given to the animals. According to Genesis chapter 1, verse 29, we find that the herb that was given to man is the herb which was bearing seed, and the plant which was bearing seed. But of the other creatures, other than man, it is just herb without bearing seed. That's what the state brings. So now I was asking this to say, what is it that makes us feel that vegetables are not part of the herbs that are bearing seed in Genesis chapter 1, verse 29? Because we see that the definition is the herbs bearing seed. So if we can classify, even now we know which vegetables have seed, and the others, you know that the others, we are told that there are a lot of mutation and things that have been done to produce them. So basically, that was my point.
Okay. Okay. What? Bermuda grass. Most of the grass, we don't see the seed. They plant, I have to check because those tomatoes seeds are minute seeds anyway, those ones. Just like what is this? Dandelion. But Bermuda grass, what they do, they use the same actual to grow it. I'm answering, saying the seeds are minute, just like the one for dandelion. You know dandelion? Yes, dandelion has that seed that they are dispensed by what? By wind. Those. The tomatoes for Bermuda, coach grass, even what is this? All the category of grass, all of them, the way they grow them is not raw seed, but also they have the minute seed.
Okay, so basically, then,
so now he's asking a question.
Just like that, just so that we answer everything in context. So if we are saying that every grass has seed,
the minute is not all of them.
Yeah, okay, minute, whatever it is, because
some, because there are some, we cannot say outright saying all of them, but we've seen like Bermuda grass. We'll see those tomatoes that go.
Yes. I've seen even with this normal grass, you see that they have things like that are thin, then they are blown by the wind, then they again begin to grow as it were. So now we are just classifying to say grass. Now, if any, whether 2 or 3 of the grass has a seed, what is it that now is going to qualify the statement in the state that what was given to animals had no seed in them? Because eventually you see that part of the grass may have, as we have just said, seed. Okay, so that now compounds even further our understanding of this Genesis chapter 1, verses 29 and 30 as to the exact definition. Because for me, I was of the view that when God says herbs bearing seed, I was of the view that it includes varieties of vegetables that have seed in themselves that can be able to generate. And so when you look at Adam, when he goes to till the land, look at this where it says, upon leaving Eden to gain his livelihood by tilling the earth under the curse of sin, man received permission to eat also the herb of the field. So it shows that this is not what he had to grow outright. It is something that he found already grown. So for me, I would take it that the permission was now inclusive of, other than for him first to wait until he plants his own, under the permission of God, those that grow naturally, he was also to do what? To subsist on. That's my understanding of this. But specifically talking of vegetables as being included in verse 29, I believe that vegetables were included because that's why they are called herbs. Like, remember, I was prompted to check it when you mentioned it the first time. So I wanted to understand, so, okay, what does God mean in Genesis by saying herbs? Okay, I was told that okay, let me just refer us to the dictionary so that you hear what I found there. So it says, and the earth brought forth green herbs and every seed. So let's see what this the first one, what it says. It says, any green plant, herbage, okay, comprehending vegetables and whole green herbage. So that is what, is it FH or herbage? I don't know. It's herbage. Now, what is the correct pronunciation, Brother? Herbage. This one is herb. Then AGE at the end, added one, making it one word. Herbage or herbage, okay, or whatever. So, according to this dictionary, definition, it's saying that the herb was mentioned in Genesis. It means it is comprehending vegetables and all green herbs. That's what it is. The definition is giving there. So now, the only part that I see different with the verse 30 is that on the one, God emphasizes on it, those that are seed bearing to be for food for man. But those that are not, like you put it, because there's no direct comment in verse 30, the verse 30 of Genesis 1, it shows that maybe whether they have seed, those which do not have seed was specifically for other creatures. That's what I was getting from there. So I don't know, Keagan, because this one is just saying that the word herb was used in Genesis 1 includes, it comprehends vegetables.
Okay. So let me. I think we can look at that so that I'll show you the quotes for this one. It might take me time.
Okay.
I'll show you the quotes. The Genesis chapter 1 verse 29, the nuts, grains, because where we say that the grains is every herb bearing seed is what we term grains. The one that we call what you call nut is because the fruit, the tree bears what you call, a tree bears nuts. Where we get fruits is because the tree also yields a fruit. Okay, these three. Then the vegetables, where we say vegetables is because of Genesis chapter 1 verse 30, where we see that a herb, every green herb given to the beast, which in Genesis chapter 1 verse 11 is called grass. Genesis chapter 1 verse 11, it is called grass. But to look at it now deeper, and to bring quotes, I did not prepare it here. I'll look at it or bring it later. Okay, because you've seen there the ones that I've recited. Okay, and there's another.
I know it said, I've given you every herb bearing seed. That one you said it is no?
I'm saying this one. In Genesis chapter 1 verse 11, God creates. What he creates there, he creates grass, herb bearing seed, and a tree bearing fruit in Genesis chapter 1 verse 11. Then in giving, he gives man every herb bearing seed and every tree bearing fruit. You've seen?
Verse 1, Genesis 1 verse 11 says, and God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth, and it was so. Verse 12. And the earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind, and God saw that it was good.
So you see now the difference there. That's what I was commenting. I was commenting saying that the grass, yes, and the fourth, the grass and the herb yielding seed, and the tree yielding fruit. Okay. Then when you check it now in giving 29, okay, in giving 29, he gives what he created, what he gives man. It's the herb yielding seed, and the tree yielding seed and its seed. That's what he gives man. Then here says, and he gives every green herb for meat to the animals. So this one that he gives here to the animals is what is termed grass in Genesis chapter 1, verse 11. Yes.
Yes, that one I have no problem in understanding the grass being given to animals. But my question is, it is saying herb bearing seed.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Yes, that's why I was saying that when you mentioned it the first time, I went to check the word herb to understand what is it, herb. So it says it is plants that are able to, which include vegetables. I hope you understand. So now the difference, like I was looking at it, is this: that for the grass, God did not even say that they have seed in them. There's no qualification of grass having seed in Genesis 1. But when it comes to the herbs, the first herbs, it says herbs bearing seed in themselves. Then it also comes to trees. It says the trees having fruit whose seed is in the fruit. So have you seen the qualification when it comes to fruit? It's even telling us where the seed of those trees who are bearing those fruits, where their seeds are, they are in their fruits. So you are able to see that God is qualifying those. No wonder I was saying that. If you go by the definition of the word herbs to mean inclusive of vegetables, then we see that God gave man vegetables that have seed in themselves. That's what I was saying as a qualification. And now when we came to him leaving the garden to go outside of it and to start stealing, God says when he left Eden, it is the time that God now gave him every herb. There's nothing like herb bearing what? Seed. He just said, if you are following nicely, let's read it again in CD, Councils on that page 81. The last statement on paragraph 1, it says, upon leaving Eden to gain his livelihood.
No, that one I've gotten it.
By setting the earth under the curse of sin, man received permission to eat also the herb of the field. Have you seen that? Not like the herb bearing seed, just that the herb. So yeah, so we see that man was given the permission to eat the herbs of the field. So the herbs of the garden, the herbs of the field. So God says now, as you are leaving the garden, now you're going into the field. Whatever herbs you find, again, you have to do what? They are given for you for meat. So the qualification of herb, if you understand what I'm trying to ask is, if you, by saying that when Adam left Eden, that's when he was given what we call vegetables by the name herb. What is it stopping us from using the same word herb to mean also what? Vegetables. Because what I want to understand is, why should the herb bearing seed not be called a vegetable, but the one that has either it bears or doesn't bear, as long as it is of the field, it is vegetables. So maybe those are some of the things that we are trying to understand.
Okay. So that one I'll cut it when I.
Okay. Yeah. Let us progress, then we'll be able to.
Okay, so that so the task given us is to find out the what? The herb if we can term the herb, every herb bearing seed, if we can term it herb, huh? That's a task given us. That herb bearing seed, if we can term it herb. And I didn't also see someone bring that quote where Ellen White, he says, what consists our diet is grains, fruits, and nuts.
It's part of this.
Did you read it?
It's actually the material principally used in these foods will be fruits and grains and nuts. But that will be paragraph 2 also and paragraph 5.
No, the vegetables.
That one, because it's trying to say that one which adds vegetables was given to us later. So that is where the contention of us trying to understand the whole concept is coming in. So now we was looking at only those that are talking about grains, nuts, and fruits. So, like when you go to paragraph 5, it says, God is working in behalf of his people. He does not desire them to be without resources. He is bringing them back to the diet originally given to man. Their diet is to consist of the foods made from the materials he has provided. The materials principally used in these foods will be fruits and grains and nuts, but various roots also will be used.
So we have to follow all that. We have to. I'll be able to bring it to the fore. The problem is I did not prepare it.
Yes, that's why I've even said that maybe we defer it to next Sabbath so that at least we have all the codes, because maybe one code to be able to help us harmonize everything. That's why we don't want to miss the opportunity, so that at least what we thought must be clear. Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for Keagan.
Okay. So what we're discussing so far, those in the audience, we're discussing that what God gave to man is the plant-based diet. Where we are asking a question is on whether of hair-bearing seed. Okay, so you have to understand that. And the thing that you have to, again, to understand is that the meat issue is that according to Genesis chapter 1, verse 29, the plant-based diet was called meat. The plant-based diet was called meat. Meat, it means food. Then later on, because human beings are the ones who control the English language, they started calling food or meat the thing that is not food, the animal, the dead corpses of animals. That's what they started calling it, food. So today's language is that we call meat to mean the dead carcasses of animals. That's what we call, but that is not meat or food. Okay. And so far we have established saying that the eating of clean animals in the Seventh-day Adventist is not founded anywhere in council, in the spirit of prophecy. Because according to the spirit of prophecy, the S.N. Haskell was rebuked on that issue. And in 1863, Ellen White received the light saying that whether clean or unclean animals, thou shalt not eat, in 1863. So whether we like it or not, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, even when it was founded, is it in 1860 what? When was the Seventh-day Adventist organized? In 1860 what? 63. The same year Ellen White received the light. They were to be vegetarians, all of them, whether they like it or not, all the people were to be vegetarians. That is what we have established. Okay, so that teaching is propaganda, the teaching that they can eat clean animals. It is just propaganda, is not found anywhere in the writings of the pioneers' work and also of their founders. That's what we have established. Okay. So this is 12:20. I'm remaining with 10 minutes. And we have discovered saying that Ellen White, even when she received the light, she was step by step shown by God saying that we should go back to Eden. Yes, slowly. And these points that I was reading is to show you that Earth is the only one that God created that sinned, disobeyed, and which needs to go back to Eden. Because the rest of the worlds, like example, the one that we read, saying the other world did not partake sin, meaning they are still vegetarians, huh? And they are still obedient and they're happy. They don't die. But Earth is the only one that sinned and started consuming flesh. Is Earth. We've looked at all that reference. Okay. Which one? Early writings. Early writings 39, paragraph 3. Okay, we looked at all that, and these people are happy. So Ellen White in Ministry of Healing, page 317, paragraph 2 says, it is not time that all should aim to dispense. It is not time that all should aim to dispense with flesh foods. Huh? How can those who are seeking to become pure, refined, and holy that they may have the companionship of heaven angels continue to use as food anything that has a so harmful an effect on the soul and body? How? She's asking a question. How can they take the life of God's creatures that they may consume the flesh as a luxury? Let them rather return to the wholesome and delicious food given to man in the beginning, and themselves practice and teach their children to practice mercy toward the dumb creatures that God has made and has placed under our dominion. You understand? So in practicing this, also we're practicing mercy. You remember when you look at the origin of man killing animals for sacrifice, God wanted to teach them mercy. When you read, he wanted to teach them, saying, by killing an animal, they feel what it means. They feel mercy towards the animals, that it is painful to sin, to take away life. So by adopting this diet given by man, also they were to exercise mercy toward the dumb creatures. Says those who have received, this is Ministry of Healing 117, paragraph 2, the one I'm from reading. Says those who have received instruction regarding the evils of the use of flesh foods, tea and coffee, and rich and unhealthful food preparations, and who are determined to make a covenant with God by sacrifice, will not continue to indulge their appetite for food that they know to be unhealthy. God demands that the appetites be cleansed and that self-denial be practiced in regard to those things which are not good. This is a work that will have to be done before his people can stand before him, a perfected people. So this has to be done before what? Before Christ comes. Or before the kingdom. It says this work that will have to be done before his people can stand before him as a perfected what? A perfected people. The remnant people of God must be a converted people. The presentation of this message is to result in the conversion and sanctification of souls. We are to feel the power of the Spirit of God in this movement. This is a wonderful, definite message. It means everything to the receiver, and it is to be proclaimed with a what? A loud cry. We must have a true abiding faith that this message will go forth with increasing importance till the close of what? Of time. Till the close of time. This is Counsels for the Church, page 233, paragraph 5 up to paragraph 6. Counsels for the Church.
I believe this one is a continuation of
yes, it's the same. Yes, the same.
With the one you called paragraph 3, which one?
Yes.
And so
So 233 paragraph 5 to 233 paragraph 6. So it is clear that the Seventh-day Adventist Church, God wants them to go back. Actually, according to the light given them, they are supposed to be vegetarians, and the light was supposed to increase up to the time you are to receive the Lord Cry message, and this was to continue. This is Counsels for the Church, page 233, paragraph 5 up to paragraph 6. Okay. So this is 1226. So questions and contributions, and I end here.
You can come for that which you have said that has not been put.
When I find it, it's in the Shepherd's Road. When I find it, I think I'll produce it. It explains the reason why the devil doesn't die. Like
Okay, I have that. That's good. Says another study. Let me read it. Okay, you can see.
Okay, so I wanted to explain because I remember when we were looking at the other words, the other words were given a rule, the same as Mother Earth during the time of probation, that were given also to not to eat. That very rule was given to other worlds, and they followed it. That's the reason why, even up to now, they are vegetarians and they don't succumb to death. But us as inhabitants of Mother Earth, we've actually succumbed to that. Adam actually fell on that question, and that's the reason why we actually die. And actually, when you look at the devil knows that. He also knows. He knows that rule. That's why if you look at what he had transgressed, death comes by transgressing not only the rule of health, but also the Decalogue. So once you transgress all the three rules, you succumb to what? To death. But you find that the devil knew exactly to say there is a rule about eating. In as much as he transgressed the Decalogue, he didn't transgress the rule of what? The rule about diet. And that's the reason why, even up to date, with that understanding, it has actually kept him even up to what? The time that God himself would have to assess to like kill him. So with that understanding, we can see that even up to now, the devil doesn't die. In as much as we can actually get into this debate, it's the reason is that he understands the rule about what? About eating, and doesn't transgress it. And even those that definitely are close followers of what? Close followers is one as well. Yes. So even the devil knows, even those that follow him closely, they understand the rules, the rule about that. Now, how much more should we, as the people that actually follow God, understand and actually preach it to others, and be strictly followers of what? Strict followers of the diet that God has actually what? Given us. So as the quotations were actually showing us to say, this light will continually what? Increase as time before probation. So we must actually understand that we are to be vegetarians, we are to be vegans, we are to be strictly strict followers of verses of this question that God has actually given for us. The question of us not eating meat or not even using its product. Once we understand that, then we'll be at the same level as these other worlds. And God will actually grant us what? Eternal life because of obeying that. So I think the quotation Brother Keagan has found it. Then you would read it so that we all have it. You understand the reason why the devil doesn't die.
Okay. This is 2 Sarah, SRA 144, paragraph 1. To SRA 144, paragraph 1. Okay, and it is in the study. No, this study. Okay. It says Adam's transgression brought him. Sorry, it says why Satan and his angels don't die. Okay, why Satan does not die and his angels? By eating of the forbidden food, Adam broke the health food law. The health food law. And by so doing, he also indirectly broke the 10 Commandment law. For by transgressing God's word, he dishonored him as a son who dishonored his earthly father by disobedience, and thereby breaking the 5th commandment, Exodus chapter 20, verse 12. Therefore, Adam is guilty of violating 2 laws, while Lucifer broke only one. Therefore, Adam is guilty of violating 2 laws, while Lucifer broke only one, the 10 Commandment law, for he ate nothing that God had forbidden. Adam's transgression brought him to the grave, dust. For after eating of the forbidden fruit, it reacted on his physical being, and thus the evil passed from father to son. But as Lucifer had not transgressed the law of health, natural death had no power over him. Adam, by obedience to the provision made for his redemption, accepting the remedy, shall be made alive by resurrection. To Lucifer, for rejecting the same privilege and deceiving the human family, God said, "Thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. Thou thou wast perfect in thy ways from the day that thou wast created, till iniquity was found in thee. I will destroy thee, O covering cherub, from the midst of stones of fire. Thou hast defiled thy sanctuaries by the multitude of thine iniquities, by the iniquity of thy traffic. Therefore will I bring forth a fire from the midst of thee, it shall devour thee, and I will bring thee to ashes upon the earth in the sight of all them that behold thee. All they that know thee among the people shall be astonished at thee. Thou shalt be a terror, and never shalt thou be anymore. Okay, this is the promise God made to the world. So the last Victor Tashu in paragraph 3 says, there is a lesson here that is worthy our consideration. Let the sinner place his finger on his sin by disobeying God's word in any form. You are breaking one or more of his eternal laws. This is your final opportunity to either accept or reject salvation. Mercy is knocking at the door for the last time. Will you, brother, will you, sister, give your heart to God? Okay, this is a nice finish to this lesson. Okay, so
That's what summarizes everything. It gives us understanding. Yeah, gives us understanding of how much we need to actually appreciate the lesson of health reform, and also put the importance so that we can overcome and become immortal. Yeah. Thank you. You can pray. Pray. Our Heavenly Father, you who dwells in the heavens, Lord God, we thank you for affording us this chance once again on this holiday, that we've come for no any other business but the business of learning your word and becoming better at it. That, Lord, with this understanding, we can be better people, live according to your truth, and shine to the world. That, Lord, they may see the light and also follow us through. Lord, may you give us your spirit that we may be a people that will not struggle to do this, but have a new life even in you. That Lord, as we continue to live in your light, may you increase our understanding and our ability to do. Lord, as we break for lunch, may you be with us, and may you help us remember that we are still in the holy hours. That Lord, we may come back eager to learn more of your word and to do. For this is the only way that we can be saved. We pray for all those that are actually out there, that Lord, you may also be with them and also give them the spirit that you give us, that we may understand more of your word. It is only in the mighty name of Jesus Christ that we've prayed, leaving all this in your name, now and forevermore, thanksgiving in our hearts. Amen.
Okay, thank you so much. We meet again at 14:15 for the Bible study, so that at least we may charge our gadgets a bit. God bless. Thank you.